Yeah, I mean, if we could go back to, when you got started, when the Jackson 5 got started, um, I was going to ask Michael how they fitted into the Motown setup.
Michael, how did you fit into the Motown setup?
We were doing a show at the Regal Theater in Chicago, and it was like a talent show type of thing, and we won. And the Gladys Knight was there, as well as a guy named Bobby Taylor, and they told Motown about us. And Motown was interested in seeing us audition for them. So we went to Berry Gordy's mansion estate in Detroit, indoor pool, and all the Motown stars were there, from the Supreme, the Temptations, the Marvelette, the Miracles. And we auditioned, and they loved it. And Diana Ross came over to us special, after the concert we did for them. And she kissed us all and said we were marvelous. And she said she wanted to play a special part in our career. And that's how it started. And we did our first single, I Want You Back. It was gold, as well as ABC, The Love You Save, Never Can Say, on and on and on. And that's how it started.
And was it particularly, I noticed that like Smokey Robinson was a vice president, but was it he or say Berry Gordy who was particularly, looking after the band?
Was Berry Gordy particularly looking after you guys?
Berry was the main overseer of the Jacksons. He was the main manager. He was the head of our whole career at Motown. Berry Gordy, as the world knows, owns Motown Records. And he only managed two people in the whole history of Motown. That was the Supremes and the Jackson 5. And so he was the main, force behind us, as well as my father and mother.
Because the Jacksons actually joined at a time when Motown was going through some changes. And, it's just like, I suppose, in 1970, I just wonder whether Michael had any sense that they were kind of, the leading lights at the time, that, while other people had left the label and things like that.
In 1970, were you guys the leading light? When, like other groups and things were leaving Motown, and they were going through changes, and you guys.
Right. Yes, that's true. We weren't aware of it at the time. We were so excited being at the company. We lived with Berry Gordy. Half of us lived with Berry for a year and a half, and the other half lived with Diana Ross. Berry lived, at the top of the hill, and Diane lived just like a block away. That was a big thrill, for us. We enjoyed it so much, and we didn't think about, the stressful years at Motown, but we just were doing so well that we just enjoyed ourselves so much. We had a big tour and just everything we wanted.
Being so young, were they able to have much control over their own career and the kind of music they did, the kind of songs?
Since you guys were so young, did you have much control over your music and the kind of songs that you wanted to pick and things to sing?
No. We mainly did what they had us to do, what they told us. We did have some say-so in the way a song should go or blah, blah. But it was mainly what Berry wanted us to do, and it was always good. I would say to this day, Motown was the greatest school for me. Really, it was the best. Some of the greatest people were there and still are there. It's incredible.
So what kind of things, if it was a school, what kind of things did Michael learn particularly about making records?
If it were a school, what kind of things did you learn about making records in Motown?
I learned about producing. I learned how to cut a track as well as producing. I've learned so many things about writing and just the whole overall thing, being with Stevie Wonder, being at his sessions and just sitting in and learning. It just was incredible. Just the way a producer, dictates to me what he wants me to do and everything and how he wants me to do it. Going through that whole thing was just the greatest learning point. It was wonderful. It was the best school.
He was talking about, say, dropping in on a Stevie Wonder session. I mean, was Motown really like a big family then?
Was Motown like a big family then?
Yes, that's very true. Everybody worked together. You'd be doing a session and Berry Gordy would just walk in and change things around and nobody would get mad. He'd say, no, don't do it that way. Try it this way. I want you to sing this, Michael. Say yeah a couple of times there or change this line. I want you to work on that lyric. He was like the Disney studios, the way Walt Disney would come in and go from one studio to the other and just stimulate everybody like a bee, in pollen, and just going from one place to another, just stimulating people what to do, keeping them on the right track. Barry was wonderful at taking a song and leading it to the right direction, giving it the right flavors to make it a hit. He knew just what it takes, and everybody can't do that. He's really something.
But as Michael learned more and more, didn't it make it frustrating that there were people all the time telling him how to do it when he must have realised that he knew himself?
Since a lot of people were telling you how to do your songs and things, was it frustrating to you, and because you wanted to do it a certain way?
Yes, a lot of times. I've had a couple of disputes with a couple of producers at Motown about that question you just asked, and it became a major thing. Berry Gordy came down to the studio, and he kind of got out of hand a little bit, but we finally solved it, and I was right. The producer wanted me to pronounce words a certain way. I told him, you pronounce the words so precisely, it takes away from the feeling of the song, and we got into a little thing with that. But it was over, and I was right, and I won. But it was a good learning point, because I knew what he wanted, but what he wanted, it took away so much. It really did.
And how about the leadership within the Jacksons? Because presumably when they started, or maybe when it was started, was it the oldest who were in charge, and then maybe Michael, perhaps learned more than the others. He wanted to be in charge.
When you guys started, was it just the oldest Jackie? Was it Jackie who was in charge, and then as you guys grew, as you started learning more and more, did you want to be in charge?
There was really no head of the group, but people always called me a leader because I was always up front singing and dancing, but there was really no leader. We always looked up to Jackie because he's the oldest brother. He's like hovers over us, and we respect him so much more. But there was really no leader. We just let the audience choose what they think or what they like, because it's for them through us. And if they want to call this person a leader, that's fine.
But what about in terms of, say, the band, the Jacksons making decisions amongst themselves as to what material they do or that kind of thing? Who chose in the end?
In the end, who chose the materials for what you guys wanted to do in the band?
We would all sit down together and discuss the whole overall. If it was a dispute or something, it would never end up as a fight or anything. We just all sit down. See, it's mainly we mostly have the same idea, so that's never a real problem. Of no, we'll do it this way. No, you like it that way. No, we can't do it that way. We mainly have the same ideas. If there is another idea, it's for the better of the situation. And they say, yeah, that is a good idea. It's never to a point where you vote or give this person power because he's a leader but we all have our own ideas.
And whose idea was it that Michael should have a solo career as well as his career within the group?
Whose idea was it for you to have a solo career as well as having a career with your brothers?
That was Berry Gordy's idea. In our early years at Motown, he thought that I should, spin out and do a little more different things, different kinds of music, not to be obligated to one sound. And so when I recorded the song Got to Be There, that was my first solo album, Got to Be There. And it was a different type of music that I loved. And of course it had its soul flavorings as well as a pop feel, whatever you want to call it. It was music and it was beautiful. And that was my first solo hit record. And then came Ben, which was a soundtrack to a movie about rats. And wherever we tour, the whole world demand to hear it. We can't get off stage. People start chanting for Ben. And I Want to Be Where You Are, which was a big hit. Diana Ross's brother wrote that for me. Then Rockin' Robin, which was an old song I recorded, was a hit as well. And then finally we come to my newer songs. Because when we left Motown, we joined CBS and we did a couple of albums. We signed a contract for a certain amount of albums for the Jacksons and a certain amount for me as a solo artist. And my turn came, and that's when Off the Wall came about.
When they left Motown and left the kind of situation where so many decisions had been made, and was it difficult for them to adjust to not being with Motown?
When you left Motown, so many decisions were made. Was it difficult not, to adjust?
Yeah, that's a very true question because at Motown, it's a much smaller company. You know every face that's there. You even know the secretaries by name who work. And when you have a problem about anything, you can call Berry Gordy right up. He'll come down, he'll discuss it. Now, CBS is millions of employees all over the world. And God, it's hard to adjust to such a big family of people. When you do want to call somebody, you call long distance to New York, long distance to Brazil, or long distance to England, and you get to know the person by business, but not by as like a personal friend. And Barry was, as well as our manager, he was fatherly too. He was. And we could relate to him much better. But I'm really getting into the feeling, into the groove of dealing with CBS. I'm beginning to know everybody. They're so huge. God.
And did things change in the studio as well with the switch from Motown to CBS?
Did things change in the studio as well with the switch from Motown to CBS?
I would say that was the most tense situation ever, or time of life for me, was the changing from Motown to CBS. It was just, I was in a whole nother world. I didn't know what was happening. And there's so much going on, so much tension. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. And I just thank God that everything went okay. We joined CBS, and I didn't know anybody there. I didn't know what. All I knew was, what we were supposed to do in the contract, and understood everything. We went in the studio, we just did our best. And they thought that Gamble and Huff should produce us, and they did. And we came up with some pretty good songs with them. Show You the Way to Go, which was a big hit, as well as Enjoy Yourself. Thank you. So many songs. And we kind of, since we've been in the studio so many years, something just told us that we should start doing our own thing. It's time to write. Something let you know that it's time for you to go out and do it yourself. So we decided to write and produce our own songs. And we finally did. And we went through so much, with people not believing in your work or saying, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" And we said, "Yeah, we know we can. We know what we can do." And we went in and we wrote the Destiny album, and that was double platinum, and that really influenced us even more. And the Shaky Body, which was a huge hit, as well as Blame It on the Boogie, and so we really were happy. We really felt great about it, and as well as CBS. And the next time around, we just, we really feel great and off the wall. And now we're doing our new album, which is really doing well so far in the studio.
I mean, apart from the obviously being pleased with the enormous sales of the Destiny album, I mean, how pleased were the boys with the way they had written and produced themselves?
Apart from being pleased with Al, with the Destiny album, how did Jackie and them feel about them, the way they produced it and everything? So.
Well, what I mean was obviously everybody was pleased that it had sold so well. But did they feel that they'd,
they could have done better?
Yeah.
Did they feel that they could have done better?
Well, I certainly did. I'm sure the brothers did too, because I'm never satisfied with anything, because I do believe deeply in perfection, and I'm never satisfied. I'll cut a track or something, and I come home and I say, no, that's not right, we got to do it over, that's not right, and you just go back and back and back, and then when it's finally out, you say, darn it, I should have done this, I should have did it, and it's number one on the chart, you're still screaming about what you should have done. I'm still not satisfied with a lot of things, but that's really good, yeah, just to keep growing and perfecting like that. And I like to stay that way, because if you're just satisfied with everything, you're just going to stay at one level and the world will move ahead. That's not good either.
Was it to do with the Wiz, that through the Wiz that Michael got to work with Quincy Jones?
Was it to do with the Wiz that you got to work with Quincy?
Yes, that was, I met Quincy before at Sammy Davis's house a long time ago. And Sammy told him, this guy's really gonna, I wasn't even paying attention. I said, so he thinks. And Quincy said, oh yeah, he said, and Tammy said, oh, wait till you see him and blah, blah, blah. He's really, I just listening to all this junk he was saying, but, that's what he thought. And I met Quincy there. I think he was doing soundtracks to television shows as well as movies, 12 Angry Men scores and stuff. And but the real meeting with Quincy, the real marriage, was the Wiz Project. And we really got to know one another, and we worked beautifully together. Oh, so well. And I called Quincy up one day. I said, Quincy, I'm ready to do an album, a solo album. I've written the songs that I want to do, but I want a real good, producer to work with me. I said, I'm going to produce it too, but I want somebody to work with me. I said, can you recommend somebody? And I wasn't trying to hint around at all. I wasn't. I didn't even think about him. And he said, Smelly. He calls me Smelly. He said, Smelly, why don't you let me do it? I said, that's a great idea. And I started giggling, and he said, oh, why don't we start? Next week we got together, and we started planning. And that's how Off the Wall came about.
And was Rod Temperton, using him as a songwriter, Quincy's idea?
Was Ron Temperton using him as a songwriter, was it Quincy's idea?
Or was Michael aware of his songs already?
Yeah.
I was on tour. During Off the Wall it took so long because we went to England, and I was still doing the album, came back, went on tour. weekends on the tour, I would fly in and do a little, and just so much. And while down south in Louisiana, Quincy called me and said, Michael, there's this guy, Rod Temperton, and I don't know if you've heard of him. He said, I'm sure you know his work. He said, you've heard of Heat Wave, of course. I said, of course I've heard of Heat Wave, Boogie Nights and Always and Forever. He said, he wrote some songs for you, and wait till you hear them. I said, okay, I can't wait. So he sent me some tracks, and I flipped over them. And then Rod put his voice on. Rod hates his voice. He thinks it's terrible. And and he was singing these songs, Rock With You. I said, God, these are great. So I recorded it, and that's how it came about. And they are great songs. And I just saw him last week. He's doing some George Benson stuff.
That's going to be good.
And when on the tracks that Michael co-produced, you know, how did the kind of workload share out between him and Quincy?
On the tracks that you produced, how did the workload share out with you and Quincy?
Well, the songs that I wrote, I did myself. Well, I did the music. I wrote the music, wrote the lyrics, the melody, and everything. But Quincy and I produced it together. And on the other songs, I was there. Sometimes I wasn't there. I told him this should go that way. We work together. And that's what I love about working with Quincy. He's not a selfish person at all. And he's unlimited musically. He can, God, if you want anything, he can do it. Jazz, folk, pop, classical, soul, gospel, anything. Renaissance music, anything. Circus music. He's just, especially because of his knowledge and experience with movies, soundtracks, having to do a scene when a guy murders somebody or get the drama. And my album has some of those things in it. And it was just wonderful working with him. The Paul McCartney song, Paul McCartney wasn't there for his songs, but you know, he knew we were in the studio. He wrote that one especially for me, Girlfriend, as well as the Stevie Wonder song that he wrote for me, I Can't Help It. And I was just so happy to work with such wonderful people, because I love professionals, people who are just incredible at their work. And I just want to just keep, you know, doing that. And being with those people, learning and growing and experiencing that whole thing. I think it's great.
When Michael's in the studio, is it important to him to go for a vocal straight away, or does he kind of build up to doing the one?
When you're in the studio, do you have to go for a vocal straight away, or do you have to build up to it when you're in the studio?
No, I do vocals pretty quick. Sometimes you do have to get into the song and have the right mood. But for instance, Ben, I did in one take. I went right in and cut it, and I said, "Want to do another one?" And the guy said, "No, it was great." I said, "Was it?" And that's how that came about. But I did two versions of Ben. I did the one you heard in the movie was another version. The one I did for the record was another version, which I did in one take. And that was at Motown. And I'll never forget that little apple box I stood on because I couldn't reach the microphone. And my name was written on it. And it's sitting at Diana Ross's house now. She has all my little doodling papers I would draw and write.
I was going to ask Michael which he enjoys most, the studio or being on stage.
Which do you enjoy most, Mike? The studio or being on stage?
That is kind of a difficult question because I'm crazy about both. Because the studio gives you the opportunity to be on stage, especially if you want an incredible crowd. But I think stage would be my favorite. I just enjoy entertaining. It's the best. The best, really.
Does he actually find it hard to keep from dancing when he's in the studio?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that is my problem. That is my problem. I'm just dancing
Gotta
around
keep
and I have
still.
to, yeah, hard to keep still, moving around from the mic. That is a big problem for me. Around here, too.
Does he work very hard on his dancing?
He just, the question, do you work very hard on your dancing?
No, I should, but I don't. I really should, like once a week, get in the room and just throw around a couple of ideas. But I don't. I just, whatever you see me do, it's spontaneous reactions on stage. It's nothing planned. It's nothing that I got in the room and tried to think of hard, It just happens through feeling.
It sounds as if, like what Michael says about being looked after by Berry Gordy and Diana Ross and his parents, and all through his career, that he has been really looked after. And I just wonder whether he has any explanation that I suppose that there is so much kind of feeling in his voice. I mean, you could understand it in like a Billie Holiday. I wonder if Michael has any explanation as to why he's able to. I don't know if you're going to be able to put this all across, but how that he can put across in his voice, so he can make people feel happy and make them feel safe.
Do you have any explanation of? You mean it for people to feel what you feel while you're singing? What you feel?
There is no real explanation. There is no real. It's nothing having to do with personal experience. When I act, it is through acting, but through my singing, it's just. I'll just say it simple as possible. Just godly. Really, it's just. Like I've said this before, when I was small, I didn't really know what I was doing. I just sang it and it just came out sounding pretty good. I just do it and it happens. I can't explain it, or it's some people, I hate to say the word, some people call it talent or some people call it whatever, but it just come about. It's no real personal experience or anything that make it come across. It's just feeling and God, I'll say, mainly God.
Smokey Robinson has always been my big hero, and recently especially, been thinking that Michael deserves a place up there on the pedestal with him. I wonder whether he compares himself to Smokey as a singer.
Do you compare yourself to Smokey Robinson as a singer?
That would be quite nice, because Smokey has quite a following, a big audience. It's hard to me to say I'm this or I'm that. I always just accept what the public make of a thing, because it's for them, really. I really believe and feel I'm here for a reason, and that's my job, to perform for the people. And if they accept it, that I'm rewarded. If they want to put me up on that pedestal, I feel even better. But I can't say that I'm as good as Smokey. I can't say that.
Was Michael influenced at all by Smokey or anyone else that he can think of?
Were you influenced by Smokey or anyone else that you can think of?
Yes, I would say, speaking of 100% level, I would give 50% to Motown. Growing up with Motown, and I give a lot of that percentage to James Brown, Jackie Wilson, and all those different great entertainers. And my time in the theater, experiencing the theater. We've played the theater for so long. It's the best experience in the world. just sitting on the wings and learning. I ate that up. And now, I like all kind of music. I like all kind of people. I love the Beatles. I love folk music. Earth, Wind and Fire. Stevie Wonder is my main favorite. And I like all kind of music. I hate to say it's categories, pop, jazz. So I don't like that. It's music. It's wonder to the ear, and that's what counts. If you can move a person through music, and that's what makes me feel good. That's what I enjoy about it.
A lot of people in the music business have, burned themselves out in 10 years. I mean, here's Michael, he's been in it more than 10 years, and he's still younger than a lot of people when they get started. I mean, how does he see if he looks into the crystal ball, how does he see his career progressing?
A lot of people have, burned out in 10 years since they've been, whatever they've been doing. And how do you see yourself in the, how do you see yourself in the crystal ball?
Oh, I think secretly and privately there's, really deep within there's a destiny for me, and just for me to stay on that track and follow it. I've had strong feelings for films, that something's directed me in that way, for motion pictures, musicals, and drama, that whole thing, and that's my destiny. To choreograph the films as well as, even get into writing the pictures and doing the music and musicals, drama, a lot of heavy drama with music. And like you said, a lot of people have been overexposed. It's true, where people are fed up. I pray that never happens with me. I just don't like being on a lot of different things or being everywhere, because I get kind of embarrassed. I don't like going on TV a lot. I enjoy the stage more than anything on stage, but not TV.
I wonder how Michael felt when suddenly the kind of music he'd been doing all the time, suddenly everyone was calling it disco this and disco that. And now, especially when people are talking about, disco is on the way out. I wonder how he feels about labels like that.
How do you feel about people, they were calling your album disco all the time, and now some people are saying that disco's going out? How do you feel about that?
Like I told you before, I hate labels, because it should be just music. I don't see anything wrong with disco. Every Friday night and Saturday, California is packed. Every club is packed. Every disco is packed. People worked all week. They want to party. They want to have a good time. And they want to dance. You have to dance to rhythm, to a beat. You can't dance to da-na-na-na-na, or you have to take it easy and call it disco, call it anything. I don't know. It's music. And whatever they want to label it, like I've said before, it's fine. What you call Never Can Say Goodbye disco, what you call being disco, what you call She's Out of My Life disco, Off the Wall, Rock With You. I don't know. It's music to me. It's beautiful to the ear, and that's what counts. It's like you hear a bird chirping, you don't say that's a blue jay. This one is a crow. It's a beautiful sound. That's all that counts. And you don't get mad because that's a crow. It's beautiful. Listen to it. You watch them soar in the sky. It's just beautiful. And that is an ugly thing about man. They categorize too much. They get a little bit too racial about things when it should all be together. That's why you hear us talk about the peacock a lot, because the peacock is the only bird of all the bird family that integrates every color into one. And that's our main goal in music, is to integrate every race to one through music. And we're doing that. You go to our concerts, you see every race out there, and they're all waving hands and they holding hands and they smile and they're dancing, and that to me is accomplishing everything. That's the biggest reward for me, more than money, is to bring those people together and do that. That's what makes me feel good. You see the kids out there dancing as well as the grown-ups and the grandparents, all colors. And that's what's great. That's what keeps me going.